Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm Salo Steinvortz, your host, producer of Drive Time Celebrate 2026. I'm also a student in the fully employed MBA program here at Anderson, graduating class of this year. It's a very special season of Drive Time because it's celebrating 10 years to bring the stories of the Anderson community, students, faculty, alumni to you. Shout out to Dylan and Manny and everyone on the team for making this happen. It's also a very special season because we're celebrating our graduating class. Drive Time is a peer-nominated, peer-interviewed initiative, and that's why it's an honor and privilege to share success by introducing you to our next guest. Most people pick a lane and stay in it. Our guest knew there's more than one way to take the road. She grew up in a small town in Rhode Island, moved to California as an undergrad, where she played competitive polo along the way, that is with a horse and a stick, and earned a biomedical engineering degree that she took in a direction entirely her own. She went from research and development to quality assurance to data analytics to strategy, each pivot more intentional than the last. At Anderson, she was the recipient of several fellowships, including Cockrum and Forte. She also TA'd 8 classes, and she served as VP in the student government here in the FEMBA program across 2 functions 2 years in a row. While at Anderson, she also participated in an international sailing championship competition, and she became a cat mom for the first time. Leah, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Salo. I'm really excited to be here. I've been watching Drive Time since my first year, and Dylan's over here in the background. I remember him interviewing Susan Francia. Actually, that was the first episode I watched. So
awesome. Sweet. So let me do a quick breakdown of how the show is going to unfold. We'll talk about who you were before Anderson, who you're now during Anderson, and who you aspire to be after Anderson, since we're graduating in almost 2 months. But before I get started, I like to do this exercise where I ask you, do you remember the first time we interacted?
So this might not be the first time. This is definitely the most memorable time. We were in negotiations together, and we were the 2 crazy people that sit in the front row.
Exactly. We sat in the front row, and you did look out for me because that's where I kind of nominated you as the spreadsheet queen. And you had a spreadsheet for the different negotiations that we had to do as part of each negotiation. So maybe can you really tell us more about what was in the spreadsheets and why did you have so many spreadsheets for negotiation?
Well, okay, I might be a little bit addicted to spreadsheets. That's how I run my life. So that's part of it. But for negotiation specifically, when you are negotiating, you look at a lot of different variables. And Professor Unzueta, that's our professor, happened to set up the negotiations where there's a ton of variables and you have a point system. So I basically created a spreadsheet with a bunch of sum product functions and made it really easy to calculate how many points am I getting. Am I getting a good enough value out of this deal, or do I need to keep going back to the negotiating table and try to get more?
And that was pretty cool because you had a function for each outcome within the negotiation. So if one negotiation was going a certain route, we could input a number and then that could tell us where we should be heading in the other direction. So that was pretty helpful. Mm-hmm. Thanks for looking out for me. Good things for sitting in the front row. And I'm also curious, because I'm also a front rower. Mm-hmm. So why do you always sit in the front row?
It forces me to pay attention. It holds me really accountable. If I'm in the back row, I check out. And I also want to get the most out of my education. We pay a lot to be here, so I want to make sure that I'm getting my money's worth, every cent of my money's worth.
Awesome. All right, so let's get started with the first question, who you were before Anderson.
So before Anderson, you kind of spoiled it. I'm from a small town in Rhode Island, Portsmouth, Rhode Island. And for anyone here who doesn't know Rhode Island really well, I sometimes say Newport. And then if they don't know Newport, Providence, then sometimes I just throw my hands up in the air and say, fine, I'm from Boston. And there was one person I actually had to say, I'm from New York. So that was unfortunate. And that person was from the US, so they have no excuse. But, geography is difficult. I'm sure there's plenty of towns in many other states that I don't know, so I'll give people a little bit of grace. Kind of like you mentioned, I moved to California to go to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo and major in biomedical engineering. I had a great 4 years there. I did get to play polo for 2 of them, and I learned a lot. My parents didn't go to college. I wanted to create more opportunities for myself, and I knew engineering was a great route for me because I loved math and science, specifically biology. I also noticed I had a bit of a habit of tearing things apart and putting them back together, so engineering was kind of a natural path for me. And out of college, I worked in biotech for several years.
And we have a picture of you doing polo, playing polo.
Yeah, so I am in the front here with the helmet, the black helmet with the orange stripe. No, I am not falling off the horse. I actually am in pretty good control despite the chaos of the scene.
And how did you get into polo? Because that's not a very popular sport per se, like basketball or soccer, etc. So how did you get started with that?
So there was a local horse barn in my hometown that I used to ride at, and I started riding when I was in 2nd grade. And the barn was about 60 acres, so you can't really have an elementary school age child alone, so I had babysitters at the time when my mom was working on the weekends. She had chores to do on the weekends and also work during the week, especially during summer. So I had babysitters, and they groomed for Newport Polo. There was Newport Polo just like up the road from the horse barn. They were polo grooms, meaning they took care of the horses and prepared them for games and served the players. And they got me into polo. We had a local high school team that I eventually made, and I continued the habit into college.
Wow. And you were telling me some lessons that you had learned from polo that has helped you in the MBA program.
Yeah, so polo is a really small world. It's very dispersed, but it's very small. I learned the value of networking and being able to build connections with a lot of different types of people, because some people in the polo world, they don't necessarily have the same background as me. But we all have, this common interest, specifically the sport. In the case of the MBA program, we all have a common interest of improving ourselves and creating more opportunity for ourselves. So being able to take a common interest and build a relationship, and also just be able to help each other out, that's something that I learned from a young age.
And what about when it comes to riding the horse and being in formation? The first thing that I think is, well, I'm going to fall. So any lessons there?
Oh, it teaches you how to be a team player. Oh, definitely. And in that case, you are a team with an animal that doesn't speak English. And negotiating is quite difficult, especially when they want to throw you into a goal. True story. So you know when to push and when not to. And that's something that's really valuable to learn, especially with people. You start reading nonverbal cues and figuring out, like, okay, where can I keep pushing? Where do I need to try to come up with a different solution? Yeah.
Wow. So thanks for sharing. That's pretty novel to me. And so you started now thinking about the MBA program. Why MBA? Why Anderson? And why FEMBA?
This is back to my interview for my FEMBA admissions. So why an MBA? So when I was in biotech, I worked across a lot of different functions. I have hit all 3 major pillars, so R&D, operations, and commercial. But I was in very specialized roles in each of them, and I wanted more visibility into just how the entire system of the company works. I also want that visibility, and also I noticed when you're in specialized roles, you do kind of cap out after a while. So I decided to get my MBA. Also, I'm a millennial. We do have credential inflation, that is the thing. And I watched my mom during her career. She didn't have a college degree. I watched her run into many hurdles because of that lack of college degree. Now, because I'm 30 years younger. I know that her not having a college degree is like me not having a master's degree. So I didn't want that becoming a hurdle should I decide I want to become an executive in the future. So I knew an MBA would be a great way to not only build my leadership skills, but also prevent me from running into the same hurdles that she did with her career.
And Anderson
specifically, I wanted to stay in LA. I knew that was, there's a lot of opportunity in LA. There's just so much going on. And also, I frankly did not want to move. So I wanted to look at the local schools in LA. I know coming from the East Coast, pedigree matters a lot. Less so out here, thankfully, but it does matter. And so I looked at USC and UCLA. I had a whole decision matrix, kind of similar to our negotiation spreadsheet, looking at USC, UCLA. Even when I played around with the weights, UCLA kept coming out on top every single time. Even when I tried to rig the system, UCLA kept coming out on top. I think the big part was just the people were super welcoming, and there was just tons of resources. It was undeniable. Even some people at USC admitted that UCLA had more resources for like student organizations and opportunities to learn how to be a leader. So it was kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, my personal experience with Anderson was that it gave me the satisfaction that the admin wanted you to be here, as opposed to the other school. They were pushing, they were excited to meet with you one-on-one, and that to me was encouraging to want to be here. It felt like, yes, admissions did want us to be here. Awesome. And FEMBA, I'm guessing because you wanted to kind of pay bills.
Yes. Being able to pay my bills was definitely a very important factor. I did end up becoming a FEMBA, as we call it, so fully unemployed MBA during part of the program. But at least for my first year, I was able to pay my bills while being in school, and that was really valuable.
And that may be a good transition. So going to now you're in the program, yay. What about any peaks and valley moments that you have had? And one transition was that you were FEMBA.
Yeah.
But you still TA'd 8 classes. So how was TAing 8 classes?
So thankfully, I TA'd in undergrad. I actually TA'd 5 classes in undergrad, 3 in 1 quarter, which, by the way, I don't recommend doing that. I had 21 hours of engineering classes, one of which was upper division, and I had 3 classes I was TAing, and I definitely hit a wall with burning out. So I learned my lesson. So I learned to pace myself here. TAing is quite nice. You get a lot of bang for your buck. You get to develop a relationship with your professor. Obviously, you get paid. That's a big reason why I did it. And also, if you really like the class, you get to revisit it from a different lens. Instead of having that pressure of like, I need to get a good grade or I need to make sure I have my homework done, you're at a much more leisurely pace. You're just making sure people participate, but in the meantime, you get to listen to the lecture and you have 0 pressure. So anything that you might have missed before, or if you are TAing for a different professor than the one you took, you get to hear a different angle of that class.
What are the 8 courses that you TA'd? I'm curious.
So I TA'd 1 undergraduate class. It was, I think it was Foundations of Entrepreneurship, if I'm remembering right, with Sean Pat, who is a FEMBA alumni, actually. So that was a really fun experience. I think we had over 100 students in corn. So that was a lot. I've never been in an undergrad class at UCLA, so it was interesting seeing how that is compared to our graduate MBA classes, which are much smaller. And then after that, I've TA'd negotiations 3 times. So for FEMBA, EMBA, and full-time. I TA'd 2 sections of PHil, so Foundations of Inclusive Leadership, for full-time and FEMBA. And I'm TAing organizational behavior right now, and last quarter I TA'd operations.
Wow. Yeah, I remember one thing that you would tell me when you started TAing was that you kind of would tell the students, don't get on my bad side.
That's mostly guys, don't cheat. Like, please don't make my job any harder than it needs to be. Just bring your name tag so I can take attendance or, well, take participation more easily. If you make my life easy, I'll make your life easy. That's mostly it.
To me, there's 1% of FEMBAs in our graduating class who really know Anderson so well for not having worked here. And you're one of them. So where did this fascination or interest for Anderson came so quickly from when you first got accepted day one in Phil to now? I think you're, like I said, there's 2 students that come to mind who know so much about Anderson. It's like David Long passed the baton to you. We talked about this. Shout out to David. We miss you. So how, where, when did you get all this knowledge?
So I learned in undergrad how valuable it is just to learn where all the hidden gems are as soon as possible. If you do that, you're less likely to get to graduation and go, oh, really? I could have done this entire time. And I've always had a knack for developing relationships with students who are 1, 2, 3 years ahead of me. In that case, in undergrad, it's 1 or 2 years in FEMBA. So I get to learn where the hidden gems are immediately because there's just so many opportunities. It's hard. You literally cannot take them all. As much as I've tried, you literally can't. So I wanted to just learn like what types of opportunities are not well known. I kind of approached it like a video game where you have the wide open map. You just run all the way to the edge, figure out where the edge is, and kind of get the scope of, okay, this is the world of opportunity. It is finite, contrary to popular belief. And then you can more easily target what you want.
Nice. Okay. And so let's talk about some peaks. Mm-hmm. Winter Connect, you have some pictures of that. So what did Winter Connect mean to you?
So Winter Connect was really taking my Anderson experience full circle. This happened in my second year, so last year. When I was a new admit, because I applied in round 1, Tiffany Lynn, our former FEMBA Council president, was the VP of Career Services. She hosted Winter Palooza, which was a large-scale networking event. It was in the EDR, our executive dining room in the B building. Had a bunch of tables with little table tents for different industries so people could explore different industries should they want to pivot. Or if that's their industry and they want to just talk to people about it, they can educate their classmates on like what they do. People get to network across sections, across years. You just bring the whole FEMBA community together. So we didn't have that my first year, and I wanted to bring it back during my second year. And I was, at that point, the VP of Career Services. So I talked to Tiffany, actually, about like how was her experience, what was it like, what would you do better? And I took all of those lessons and implemented them. I made sure to empower my team because it's a really heavy lift. It ended up being a 241-person event. We had people in the FEMBA community across 13, if I remember right, class years. So that's something I know I can't do on my own. This was my very first large event. I had never done event planning before my second year at Anderson. So I knew I needed a big team. And here is my committee, my career services committee. They were amazing. They took every opportunity to help out with the endeavor. Anytime I needed something, even if it seemed small, they were happy to help. They really took ownership. And then I also got the opportunity to collaborate with the rest of eBoard. We had our VP of Academic and her team. They sent out Winter Connect marketing via our FEMBA newsletters, worked with VP of Marketing to send out just marketing over Slack and email, which got us more attendees. Worked with admin, just like you said, they want us to be here, they want us to succeed. So we had, I think, bi-weekly calls all the way back in the summer about it to make sure everything runs smoothly. We know what we're doing, we know what the goal is, and it was a huge success.
Any lessons that you got from planning all of that?
Leverage your team. Definitely leverage your team. You have all of these great people like on your side, and they want to help, and they also are trying to get experience leading endeavors. And if you leverage them, you're also contributing to their experience.
Wow.
You're not just passing off grunt work.
Awesome. Thanks. Any more peak valley moments that come to mind? Any challenges or any other fun moments?
So another peak moment was helping plan the Vitals conference, which I was on this lovely team right here. See, you're going to see a common theme: large teams where everyone has a big role, and for a large scale events. Yeah. I think I'm done after this. I need a little bit of a hiatus from that. Vitals. We actually expanded the scope of Vitals from last year. It used to be capped at 200 people, like 200 tickets being sold. This year, we expanded it to, we sold like, I think 320 something tickets. We ended up having 260 or so people show up. We had speakers who were in the C-suites of like major companies, like for example, UCLA Health. And it was a great event. And it was so rewarding just being part of that team. Making this another marquee event happen. And Vitals is like healthcare. So Vitals is Healthcare Business Association's big event. And I remember attending it my first year and wanting to get involved. And I helped out with the check-in table both my first year and second year to subsidize my ticket. And for my third year, I wanted to take on the challenge of helping plan it.
Wow.
It was really rewarding.
And another peak, not related to Anderson, but it happened during Anderson. At least you participated in this international sailing competition.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with sailing? How was doing sailing while you were in the program?
So just to make sure we are leveling expectations here. So I sailed in the Hobie North American Championship, and I crewed for my old landlord, who's actually a mentor to me. And crewing, if you are agile and can follow instructions and pull ropes, you can crew. And my old landlord is a bigger guy, so needed a lighter crew to kind of balance out the weight and not be too overweight so the boat can go faster. Hobie North American Championships took place in Dallas, of all places, on a lake. It was a really fun experience. I don't really sail that much, if I'm going to be honest. I kind of just get thrown into it, but it's a lot of fun. I got into it, ironically, coming from Rhode Island. You'd think I would have gotten into it growing up there. No, I actually got into it here, I think a few years before starting FEMBA. So I don't have any pictures from that competition, despite my best efforts. But I do have a picture of me on a different Hobie Cat, a smaller one than the one I sailed in the North American Championships. That was on Huntington Lake up near the Mammoth area.
Were you by yourself in that?
No, the skipper is just the skipper who is the one steering the boat. He was just hidden by the sail.
And it's two people on the
Yes.
boat. Wow. Are you nervous when you get on the water? Because that lake looks massive, and right, the first thing for people who don't do that is like, well, if I fall, it's kind of scary. But
I've fallen off a horse. You fall in water. Water's nice and soft.
Oh,
and you have a very big life jacket. So even unless someone really wanted to submerge me, you need a really big person to submerge me. My head's going to be well above water, which is nice.
So any commonalities in thought when you're in the water, and how would that like apply to Anderson?
So I would say a big lesson that I've learned with sailing is you can only steer a boat if it's moving. And that relates to Anderson because there's just so many opportunities. It can kind of be paralyzing, especially when you're sitting here like, I know I want to pivot, but I don't know where I want to go. It's easy to sit there and be frozen, but you can't. You have to move forward. What I usually would do is I would make a hypothesis. I think I want to go in this direction and start exploring it. And kind of like with a boat, you can always course correct. You keep moving forward, you can always course correct, change the angle, and not too much ground is lost. But if you are sitting there stalled, you can't do anything.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. That's another hidden secret of yours, the polo and definitely the sailing.
Mm-hmm.
So what about any challenges in Anderson? Any maybe time management or what comes to mind?
I would say the biggest challenge I've had at Anderson, it's like the occasionally reoccurring moments of doubt. And most of mine were centered around just not having all of my stuff figured out, and also being kind of introverted in a clearly extrovert heavy environment. As far as not having a clear vision, I kind of touched upon that before. I just learned I have to just keep moving forward in a direction. It can definitely be the wrong direction. It has been. That's fine. I can always spin around and keep going. But if I'm just sitting there stalled, that time will pass no matter what. But if you at least did something, you learned about yourself, you learned about others. Even if I started pursuing a path that ended up not being for me, I still met people there that I can help, that can help me, that are just interesting people, new friends along the way. And also it allows me to be able to engage with other people in that field and know exactly what they're talking about, so we can have a better quality interaction. As far as being an introvert, so that's actually what drove me to be a leader in most of the clubs. I was really only leader in a few clubs, but the reason why I pursued club leadership was I found a little life hack at Anderson. If you are a leader in a club, people have to reach out to you. So I know being an introvert, it's a lot of social energy trying to reach out to new people and make new friends individually. That's exhausting, frankly. So if I put myself in a position where people have to come to me, I cut that energy in half, and I can reallocate it somewhere else, or at least just not burn out immediately. I learned that during Phil. Phil is a whirlwind of a week where you are talking to people constantly. And I remember joking with people, I've overdosed on human interaction by Thursday. And I took Thursday lunch over in I think it was like the student store, not the main one, but the one with the Anderson stuff. I can't remember what the name of it is, hiding from people. I had my headphones in. I think I was wearing a sweatshirt. I put my hood up just so people wouldn't talk to me, so I could just recharge a little bit and make it through Friday.
And for students who are thinking about applying, what would you explain to them what Phil is?
It's like our intro to Anderson. It's like an orientation course. And you get to learn about all the different resources at Anderson. It's a fire hose to the face. You will, as hard as you will try, you will get the information. It'll go in one ear and out the other. And then you'll probably capture about 10% of it. And thankfully everything's in writing. So as long as you save those emails, you'll be okay.
And FYI, Phil is Foundations of Inclusive Leadership. Mm-hmm. We use a lot of acronyms here at Anderson, but so you'll start using them, and eventually you will know them as well.
They will also change sometimes. Like if you talk to an alum before the class of 2025, it will be LF, Leadership Foundations. The acronyms are a moving target.
Yes. And let's not even talk about capstone or recruiting for career services, right? Yeah. Because those change all the time. Mm-hmm. Cool. What about any memorable class or faculty that you've taken?
I would say general management is one of my most memorable classes. I learned about like different power dynamics and how organizations, like you have your formal power structures, but you have a lot of informal power structures where some people are influencing others more than what you'd see on an org chart. And that was really valuable. That was something that I never quite understood when I was early in my career. I always thought politicking was honestly kind of BS. And then I realized, like, no, this is a tool you can leverage really heavily. And I started learning how to do that in club leadership.
And who teaches global management?
So general management. General management is taught by now Dean Ian Larkin. And I took his class right before I became Dean. So huge shout out to Dean Larkin. Please bring back the class. I saw that on a FEMBA elective survey, and I actually wrote "bring back general management" in all caps. But I don't know if a lot of other people knew about the class, so hopefully it gets brought back soon.
Awesome. Cool. So, all right. What about who do you aspire to be after Anderson? So, best, better, good, better, best of you, 5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years from now, I want to be in a role where I am able to make an impact on people's quality of life, and that's a really broad definition. I want my work to help make people's life better in any way, shape, or form. Even if it's something as simple as a continuous improvement endeavor, giving people back some bandwidth so they can go pursue activities that help them grow their career, or give them back time so they can eat lunch not at their desk, or just, have time to pursue hobbies. I would consider that a win. That would be good. Better would be making a large impact where I can do that on like an organizational level. And I would say best is doing that also while leading a team. When I came into Anderson, I didn't know if I wanted to be a high-level individual contributor or a leader. And that's also why I pursued those club leadership positions. This is a great place if I was to find out that, okay, no, I actually don't like leading people, this is a great place to learn, because you do it for a year, you're done, that's it. And there's no major ramifications on your career. Dylan Stafford calls it a leadership lab. It really is. You get to try out different leadership styles. You get to try out even just leading in general, seeing what that's all about, learning whether you want to be more hands-on or hands-off, and also discovering like your team's needs for like what type of leader you are. It varies all the time, depending on team members, and it can even vary quarter to quarter depending on their bandwidth.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so as we start to land the plane, let's do a lightning round.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so I have to do it. Favorite restaurant?
So favorite restaurant, does it have to only be one? Or can I do two? Okay.
It doesn't need to be one.
So there are two that I really like. There's one near my house in, I live in Canoga Park, but it's in Woodland Hills. It's near the mall. It's called Sushi Katsuya. Best tuna rolls I've ever had. They are so good, and I would say really authentic, really high quality tuna. So I love eating there. I've gone there to reward myself for passing finals before and surviving quarters. And also Mama Lou's, which is, I think, a small chain. I know I go to the one in Pasadena because I have a friend over there. They have amazing dumplings, and the prices are very reasonable for LA.
Awesome. What's your favorite learning group?
My favorite learning group? So there's a significant overlap between my favorite two learning groups. My first learning group during Phil and organizational behavior in fall quarter, and then also my learning group in my last two core classes. We ended up having the same, four of the same members between those two. So we already knew how we worked. We all are fairly type A to a degree and want to do good work, and we're not here for drama or wasting time. And so we would get work done really efficiently, but we could also laugh and joke about stuff while we were at it. It was really fun working with them.
Awesome. Well, what about favorite Anderson memory?
Favorite Anderson memory. So I know a lot of people, when they look at their favorite memory, it's a big thing like Vegas or Andriot or something like that. For me, actually, it's more on a small kind of day-to-day scale. I remember studying for operations with three of my classmates, one of which was in my learning group. We were all in the trenches, and it was nice having that camaraderie. It kind of brought me back to engineering school. In hour one, we were calculating, queuing theory problems. By hour three, we were calculating, okay, how much can this curve help us? Because as we were all looking at our chicken scratch on the board, we were all going here, like, wow, we're kind of screwed, aren't we? And then we remembered that, okay, if we were screwed, then a lot of people are screwed. So the curve will help us sometimes.
What's an Anderson must do that you didn't know when you started, then now you look back and you say that has helped me succeed?
Honestly, for anyone who is thinking of switching jobs, which we all will, that's how careers work, I recommend taking advantage of career resources and also your peers. I've had several peers do mock interviews with me, and we have stumped each other. I've noticed if you train and practice under some pressure, you're able to perform really well during a regular interview.
How do you think about ROI right now?
Well, that was my goal, maximize ROI, and I think I've done a really good job with it, between developing relationships with classmates and making friends, obviously getting the degree, and successfully pivoting.
Awesome. All right, so we're getting to the bear hug. Mm-hmm. So this is for someone who you would give a virtual bear hug to, who has helped you get through the program in these 3 years. And as Dylan likes to say, if you like to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go together, if you want to go far, go together.
Mm-hmm. So I have a bear hug for one Anderson person and one non-Anderson person. So the Anderson person is my friend Sam Galley, who was my study buddy for 2 years. He graduated early. He actually started school with us and graduated early. So I've been giving him a lot of hell lately because he abandoned me in my last year, and I have not had a study buddy all year. So, but he's over in Newport, Rhode Island, ironically, right near my hometown. He's in the Navy, so off to bigger and better things. And also my friend Alexis Dickinson, who is currently in Japan. She got her MBA during the pandemic and helped me really think through my whys for when I was considering pursuing mine, and has been a great sounding board and occasionally unpaid part-time therapist for me during all this. So.
Awesome. So any final words?
I would say you will have doubts. You will have ups and downs, but if you keep moving forward and leaning on your network, both in school and out of school, you'll be able to make it through, and you'll be surprised what you can accomplish.
Thank you so much. Leah Torres, transformative leader, sharing success, driving change, thinking fearlessly. Thank you on behalf of Anderson, and thank you for spending time with me doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.